Hey YouTube, it's me again with part 2 of my video series, The Secrets Behind Noah's Flood. In my previous video, I discussed what might have taken place in the days of Noah. I also touched on a few common sense questions. Now for this particular video, I want to focus on Scripture. Scripture that mentions these giants and fallen angels. Now with that being said, we're going to go to our first verse. It's from my previous video. It's from the book of Genesis, chapter 6 and verse 4. It reads, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God, who were angels, came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown." Now, I want to touch on these giants because there's some people out there that like to say that they were not literal physical giants as far as size and stature goes, but that they were mental giants, normal human beings with high capacity. Well, if you look at our next verse here from Deuteronomy chapter 3 and verse 11, it totally destroys that theory. And that verse reads, "Of the Rephaim only King Og of Bashan was left. His bed was made of iron and was more than 13 feet long and 6 feet wide. It is still in the Ammonite city of Rabbah." So, again, how on earth are two normal human beings, male and a female, coming together would produce a giant of such stature? It does not make sense, and it does not hold any weight. And for those, again, that like to say that they were just mental giants, they were sharp thinkers, well, how do you explain in this verse here, Deuteronomy chapter 3 and verse 11? Look at how tall he was, the giant, King Og. He was from Bashan. He was 13 feet long, 6 feet wide. It says here, his bed was made of iron. I don't know anybody with an iron bed. What was he doing with an iron bed at the time? Must have been pretty uncomfortable. But anyways, you can see some of the fallacies that they try to push in Genesis 6:4. And here you have a giant mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 3 and verse 11. Hence, the story of David and Goliath. Goliath was a giant as well. So you can see what exactly brought about the flood. It wasn't just that people were misbehaving, no. You get that in every generation. And you don't see God trying to destroy everybody because of it, other than those responsible for such acts. So, you're probably wondering, well, how on earth could a heavenly angel even have the ability to reproduce with the human women? Well, I'm going to touch on that. But first things first, let's go to our next verse. It is from 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 4. It reads, "For if God spared not the angels that sinned," which angels that sinned? The angels from Genesis 6:4. It says, "But cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment." So you can find it all throughout Scripture. It references these fallen angels. If you just take the time to connect the dots and do your homework. Our next verse also references fallen angels. It is from the book of Jude, chapter 1 and verse 6, it says, "And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he had reserved unto everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day." Here it references these angels not keeping their first estate, meaning they came down here, left their own habitation, transformed themselves in human flesh, and they intermingled themselves with human women. Thus you have these giants mentioned here in Deuteronomy 3:11, as well as in the story of David and Goliath. You can see how strong they were if they had a bed made of iron. And let's go to the next verse. Let's not stop there. It is from the book of Ephesians, chapter 6 and verse 12. For those of you that don't know what we're wrestling against, here it tells you. It reads, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against authorities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness who govern this world." Who are these rulers? It tells you right here in the next line, against spiritual forces in high places. So it lets us know they weren't earthly descendants, the sons of God being mentioned in Genesis 6:4. Remember, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. It's telling you right there, but against spiritual forces. Spirits, fallen angels. If you read our next verse, it's from 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 10. It's in reference to why women are to have some type of authority, power over their head, meaning Christ as their head covering because of these fallen angels. And the verse reads, "For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels." What angels? The angels from Genesis 6:4. She needs a head covering of protection. She needs to be under Christ's authority. Not just his husband's. Yes, she needs to be under her husband's authority. It's a symbol of respect and that, she's taken and, the man is the spiritual leader of the household. So she needs to be in tune not only with her man, but with Christ for full-blown protection. And you're probably saying, well, that was then. What about now? We don't have to worry about these fallen angels. Oh, yeah? Well, remember Christ's words that just before he comes, his second coming, he said it will be just like the days of Noah. What did he mean by that? We are just reading about it right now. Yep. They will be back. Matter of fact, they are here now. So you can see that's what he meant by that. That was the secret behind Christ's words in regards to as in the days of Noah, so too shall it be just right before my second coming. You can read about that in Matthew 24. You can also read about these fallen angels in the books of Joel and Revelation chapter 9. They are the locust army that is mentioned in those books and in that chapter of Revelation. So, with that being said, let's go to some other verses regarding these fallen angels. And we're going to read from the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verses 7, 8, and 9. It says, "And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. They're coming here to deceive the whole world. Matter of fact, they are here now. We are just waiting for grand appearance. That's why Christ said that right before his second coming, it will be like the days of Noah. That's what he meant by that. He was referring to the secrets in Genesis 6:4. Now, with that being said, I'm going to end this video for part 2, and I will explain just some of the abilities that these angels have in part 3. So you guys could begin to understand and comprehend these scriptures a little more, because I know it's hard to take in a lot of truth, but you got to do it in bits. A little here, a little there. So, I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, just soak it in. Ciao.